It's a question we ask every single day, in our own homes, on the news, on the world stage. It's one of the most fundamental, kind of haunting questions we face, and it just echoes through our personal lives and, really, our entire society.
This question right here. Think about it. It's like the engine behind so much of what we do. We're constantly on the hunt for culprits, for a name or a face to point at. It's this deep, almost ancient impulse, this need to assign fault. But why? Why is it so powerful? And what is it actually doing to us?
The second we start hunting for a guilty party, we're already dividing the world. It's just what it does by its very nature. It separates us into these camps, right? The innocent and the accused. And in doing that, it builds these massive walls between families, communities, even whole nations. It creates this us versus them world that's so hard to break down.
And if you zoom out, you see the same question, but it's been formalized. It's baked right into our entire concept of justice. Our legal systems are these huge, elaborate structures built around one thing: figuring out who's at fault and what their punishment should be. So yeah, the search for blame, it literally fills our prisons.
And today, oh man, in the digital age, this impulse is just on steroids. Our news feeds have become this non-stop fire hose of accusation and finger-pointing. And this culture of blame, it shapes our reality, it shapes our politics, it shapes how we see the world every single day.
Okay, so this brings us to a really crucial idea. To avoid looking in the mirror, we construct this entire architecture of blame. And the whole thing is designed to protect one simple thing: our own feeling of innocence.
And what's so wild is how we've professionalized this impulse. You see it everywhere. Governments call it justice. Corporations will call it strategy when they need to assign fault for a failure. Even churches do it, using doctrine to draw these hard lines between the saved and the sinner. But underneath all those respectable names, it's the exact same drive. Find someone else to carry the fault.
And this quote, wow, it just hits the nail on the head, doesn't it? It's just fundamentally easier to point the finger outward than it is to look inward. Confession requires humility. It requires vulnerability. Accusation? That feels powerful. Shouting them is loud and confident. Whispering me is quiet and, let's be honest, really difficult.
So what's the end game here? Well, the result of this endless cycle is a world where everyone is just permanently on the defense. We're all basically lawyers in this global courtroom that has no judge and no exit. And in that state of constant accusation and defense, real connection, real understanding, any kind of healing, it becomes pretty much impossible.
But here's a thought. What if blame isn't actually about morality or justice at all? What if it's something else entirely, just in disguise?
This is the absolute heart of the matter. Blame is just fear wearing a costume. It puts on this mask of righteousness, right? It makes us feel like we're standing up for what's right. But underneath that mask, the true driver is fear. And specifically, it's the fear of being held accountable.
Yeah, this breakdown here is perfect. On the surface, what we see is moral clarity, but the reality is a deep fear of accountability. We tell ourselves we're protecting truth, but really, we're just afraid of the change that truth might demand from us. We feel all righteous, but what we're actually terrified of is seeing our own complicity in the problem.
And that's the tough pill to swallow, isn't it? This is the challenging truth that blame helps us run away from. Corrupt systems aren't just built by a few bad people. They're held up by the silence and the small compromises of many. We are all, in some small way, participants in the very things we point our fingers at.
So, all of this leads right to the engine that keeps this whole system running. See, blame doesn't just happen once and then it's over. No, it creates this destructive, self-perpetuating cycle with its close partner, shame.
And the process, as you can see, it's tragically simple. It starts with pain. Hurt people, well, they hurt people. Then, in response to that hurt, blame is cast. This creates shame in the person being blamed. And that shame, it so often leads to more hurt, which just starts the engine all over again. It's a loop that can trap families and whole communities for generations.
So how do you stop a runaway engine like that? It turns out it can start with just a single question. The moment we pause, and instead of pointing outward, we ask, what part of this belongs to me? That right there, that's the moment the entire cycle can grind to a halt.
And make no mistake, this is not just some small personal act. This one moment of radical self-reflection has the power to collapse entire hierarchies of hate that have been built up over centuries. It is nothing less than a revolutionary act of humility.
All right, so if we manage to stop that engine of blame, what fills the vacuum? What comes next? Well, that brings us to our final section, charting a new path forward, away from blame and toward a new beginning.
So let's put these two things side by side. Blame versus responsibility. Blame, as we've seen, is an accusation. It's an act of condemnation that basically outsources our conscience to someone else. But responsibility, that's an act of reclamation. It's not about condemning anyone, it's about self-knowledge. It's having the courage to actually see our own part clearly.
And that word, reclamation, that's the key right there. It's such an empowering choice. It's the moment you decide to stop letting other people carry the burden of your own awareness. Instead, you choose to take back ownership of your role, your actions, and your power to make a change.
At the end of the day, it really all boils down to this one simple but incredibly powerful idea. The entire architecture of blame is designed for one thing, division. But the truth, and that includes the truth about our own role, that's the only thing that can ultimately bring us together.
And so, here we are, right back where we started, but with a final, really important twist. The question isn't who is to blame. The only question that truly matters, the one that can actually build a different kind of future, is who will begin?